And it requires courage.
It does.
Right? Looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, I might need to give up my privilege. I might need to give and abandon this thing so that I can
make room for something
right.
beautiful.
That's right.
It's almost always requires a sacrifice, in my experience.
Mm-hmm. Have you had to make those sacrifices in your life?
Every time I've made a move that was necessary and positive, there's a sacrifice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Demarre, welcome back to Unmute the Voices.
It's great to be here with you. Yeah.
Man, we have talked about everything. You've been on the show before. We've talked about your personal life. We've talked about your career. We've talked about just everything, racial issues that have occurred within our industry as well as in the country. I feel like we've kind of chatted about everything, but I just want to know from you, what has changed in your life since the last time we met?
Wow. Well, in a way, everything. I mean, I always feel like my life is, it's in motion. I want it to be. So if it was exactly the same, I would be unhappy about that. You know, I'm a father now. That's a beautiful major change that has affected me as a human being, me as a professional, my goals as a human being and my goals as a professional. Some basic changes on paper to my resume, so to speak.
Like what?
Well, I'm no longer teaching at CCM, University of Cincinnati College Conservatory of Music, and I had a really beautiful 7-year run there. I had incredible students. You know, a lot of them are doing really incredible things. It was a beautiful run, a meaningful one, a life-altering, inspiring run of 7 years. But that's no longer a part of my professional existence. You know, I had a really close friend say to me when I was deciding to make some changes, and she said, you know, Demarre, you tend to know when to make room for other beautiful things to enter. I like to believe that is true.
And so you're welcoming these beautiful things into your life. What are some of those beautiful things?
Well, time will tell.
Yeah.
But the first thing that I can do is to take time to better myself. You know?
But I have to stop you right there, because from the outside looking in, you have made it. Like, you're the principal flutist of Seattle Symphony. You are one of the premier flutists in this country, not just as a Black flutist, but just within the whole flute classical music culture. Like, everyone is aspiring to be like you, right? I mean, you taught at this conservatory, you're no longer there, but you've done these amazing things. You've played in really outstanding premier orchestras around the country. Your recordings are outstanding. They are the golden standard of how you play flute repertoire. You have this presence that is authentic. Look at your glasses. I mean, you are, by all just professional standards, the gold stamp of what a professional musician looks like and how they live. So I'm going to ask on behalf of everyone, what other beautiful things are you welcoming or would like to welcome into your life?
Well, I would hope that anyone that looks up to me, thank you for saying all of those
Yeah,
things.
but it's true,
No, I
though.
really, this is very kind of you. But I would have to say that I would say more than the things that I've been able to accomplish, would say the fact that I am constantly striving to improve and to grow. I would say I would look up to that part of what I do, or that part of who I am. You know, not the fact that I'm principal flute of this orchestra, or I've taught at this university, or I've done this, but I'm proud of those things. But I'm most proud of the fact that I really do believe that the distance between where I am and where I want to be is exactly the same as it has always been. It's exactly the same. It hasn't gotten smaller at all. So I want better for myself. And perhaps, this is not a requirement though, but perhaps you will be able to see that in something that you can Google or you can list or you can see on in my bio. But that's not a requirement. It's I can have certain projects that don't need to see the outside world. They could be, for me, I want to work on this. You know, I want to do this for me, and it's almost guaranteed that it will have a positive influence on the things that you will see. You know, let's say I need to be improvising more. Okay, let's say that, right? If you happen to see it, good, that's fine. I would love for you, and give me a couple of years, few years more or more. But if that, let's say that was a journey that I have for myself. That's for me. I promise you it will have a positive effect on what you do see and hear, though. You know, I promise you will. Even if you're unaware of that personal goal. And I have a lot of personal goals like that.
So your personal goals show up through your playing.
I would,
We
yeah,
can
most
hear
likely.
it through your playing.
Quite possibly. There's, you know, oftentimes there's a way that we can think about the work we're doing and how we're going to present a particular piece of music, for instance, that is influenced by things that have nothing to do with that piece of music. I could be inspired by a concert I went to, a show I went to, that has nothing to do with classical music. You know, that I keep these things in me, this life. You know, my wife and I, we go to concerts all the time, we go to shows all the time. We hear everybody. And we're inspired by this. And I use that inspiration for when I play a Mozart concerto. You won't know about that inspiration, but perhaps you'll notice that I seem inspired. And I'm always inspired.
Yeah. So what are you like listening to, and what shows have you watched that have really inspired you?
Well, it's always, and I kid you not, it's always the last show I saw.
Okay.
It's always.
What was the last show you saw?
Bruno Mars.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what inspired you about that show?
There's a couple of things that I think about, that I've been thinking about a lot. One was almost the beauty of repetition. The beauty of repetition. In classical music, we complain when we have to play this piece again. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Oh. And a lot of the non-classical shows I go to, what they're singing songs that have been part of the soundtrack of a lot of our lives. Millions of people around the world for decades. And I haven't seen a single artist outside of classical music that I've had the fortune to go see live that shows it. there's always this freshness, this feeling that this is for you right now. It doesn't matter that I've been singing this song for
600, 700 times.
More than that.
Yeah.
More than that.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't matter. This is, I love it. That's how it comes across.
Yeah.
And the feeling that you're getting right now is because what I'm giving to you is actually even more than what you can receive from me through a recording. You know, oh, that's so inspiring.
So why do you think that classical musicians don't do that? Why do you think that, or do you think that we go on kind of automatic pilot of just recycling the same ideas again through all the pieces that we continuously play?
Well, I
Is
think
there
that's
a
a very
freshness
good.
that's missing?
That's a very good question. That's the recycling of pieces. I don't find that to be a problem as long as it's paired with the introduction of the new. You know, but this idea of recycling ideas through a variety of works makes zero sense.
Do you think the audience knows that or can hear that?
Of course, anyone can hear it. There's a certain satisfaction that the performer and the audience member, typically in classical music, tends to have. We tend to get caught up sometimes when we aren't experiencing something else, something that's sincere, something that is human. When we're not feeling that, then we can fall back on, well, he or she plays well. We fall back on good job with the craft. You know, so, but when there's something in addition to that exists, that is shared, we appreciate that. We can, anybody, you don't have to have been trained in the art of listening to classical music to feel.
Yeah. And
You don't even have to like it, but
Yeah.
you can have a reaction to it. So anyone can feel it, and when that is not part of the experience that's presented to you, then as classical musicians, we tend to fall back on, well, good job. You play well.
So then it also sounds to me like there's almost this starvation of the performer also not having that experience, right?
Right.
Not having that freshness or that new experience for a piece that they've played 700 times.
Right. Then I encourage them to. They don't need to go to a Bruno Mars concert. they don't need to.
What do they need to do?
They need to discover that for themselves, but they need to find something to be inspired by. They can put what they're doing in perspective, to put all of these years, all of these countless hours of work trying to perfect the craft and forgetting that the only reason we have to learn how to play our instruments is to be able to communicate through our instruments.
So
we forget about that part.
So in other words, what I hear you saying is that we're communicating some boredom at times.
Or we're not communicating anything at all.
Saying nothing through notes.
Yeah.
So then, if we're not saying anything through notes, what is the audience responsibility in that moment? How does the audience demand more from the artist who is saying nothing through their performance?
Well, it's not the audience's responsibility.
It's
I mean, I don't think so. The way I think about it is that it's a shared experience, and the first sort of giver in this sometimes temporary relationship, I believe, is the artist. The audience wants to be moved, of course. They want to hear.
They want to feel something.
They do. They do. It could be just they love this piece and they want to hear you play it. But if it's void of the necessary ingredients to bring this music to life, then we've robbed them of that experience. And the amazing thing is that this can exist to a certain extent regardless of level. It just needs to be your intention to, and we've all, most of us have had at least an experience of being, of being moved. But
Absolutely.
That's what I'm saying. We remember the first time we heard that piece, that the first time we performed this, and it's just understanding that the listener wants to be at least reminded of the first time they heard it, or wants to be,
or just wants an experience.
Just wants an experience, yeah.
I think about that. Seth Parker Woods. I've shared this with Seth. I've shared it with other people. Hands down, one of the top 5 best concert experiences of my life was seeing him play in Octave 9 at their opening. And I felt like I had been to my very first classical music concert. It was on par, in my opinion, with Beyonce's Lemonade concert. Like it felt like I was having a classical music experience for the first time, a concert for the first time, coupled with going to a Beyonce concert, because and it was all new music. It was all new music. It was like by 20 or 25 composers that he commissioned music by, and it was him performing. He sung. There was spoken word. There were images. There was this whole multimedia display that, like, the pictures were absolutely carefully curated, that went almost minute by minute with every note. I felt like I was in a museum of music. I was so moved by it. And I was like, that's it. This is it. Yeah. This is it. And I was so proud of him. And of course, he's a Virgo, just like you and I. Yeah. And so I was like, oh, of course it makes total sense. Just like Beyonce. Yeah, really. It made total sense to me. But I was so moved by that. And I didn't even realize in that moment how hungry I was for an experience like that within classical music, because I agree. I've had experiences where I've went to concerts of other, performers and been like, oh my God, this was amazing. I was very inspired, but within classical music, it was something I hadn't really experienced in a long time, I should say.
And with the right intention, you can create these experiences even through the music that we've heard a million times.
How is that taught? How do you teach a musician to create an experience that is transformative for everyone, including them, in that moment?
That's a difficult task. From a teacher's vantage point, speaking of intention, you can have that as your intention. And why not? You can have that as you would love to share these ideas with all of your students. Not all of them will grasp it. Not all of them will grasp the value in that when there, for instance, could be so much frustration in just playing the instrument. You know, I try to communicate that there's value in both. You need to be able to play your instrument. Period. I mean,
so there can't be any technical barriers in order for the real music making to happen.
Right, but there doesn't need to be perfection. You know, this can be part of the young musician's journey. You know, this can be part of, like, as you're learning the language, that you can know from the start that your goal is to be a poet. You can know that is what you're striving for, and you'll be more likely to achieve that if you know that that's the objective. That the point of it all doesn't need to be to learn your instrument. That you're learning your instrument, you're learning grammar, so that you're learning the rules so that you can beautifully break them with intention, purposely, if it's appropriate for what you're trying to convey at times. You know.
Unmute the Voices is sponsored by Key to Change Studio. Key to Change Studio is a violin and viola studio located in Renton, Washington, which allows middle and high school underserved students living in South King County an opportunity to take violin or viola lessons. For more information, visit their website at keytochangestudio.org. Now, back to Unmute the Voices.
So what sort of advice would you give to a professional who is in the mid-level of their career, who might feel stuck?
It requires practice to be different than you've been probably for some time, for years.
So does this require like a complete transformation?
I wouldn't go that far, but if I hear these words from a person and they're really sincere about what they're requesting, what they're asking of themselves, then they're really close. You're really close. Most people have no desire to change anything. You know, like the idea that what I'm presenting, how I'm being, how I'm feeling, how I'm thinking is not right for me or for those around me. Whoa, that's a big realization. That's huge. So most people don't get to that point. And there is no room for judgment on my part or anyone's part. It's your existence.
Right.
But if a person does say those words, like, I'm in a rut, I don't want to be in a rut anymore. Oh, okay. That's great. Then you can also, if it's a friend of yours or it's someone close to you, it's easy to share some of your experiences. They don't need to be things that this person connects to, but just to be around someone who's excited about something. It's contagious. It's, speaking of Bruno Mars and his band, we heard his band play. They did a separate show. They looked like they were having the time of their lives. They were having such a great time. I still feel it. It's like almost 2 months ago. I can feel it. Like when I've walked on stage since, I feel it. I'm inspired by that. It's not the genre that I've centered my life around. Who cares? I've witnessed people making music who are having a ball at a super high level. Oh, I
want
that.
Yeah.
I want that.
Yeah.
So just wanting that
means you're closer.
You're really close.
That makes sense.
But good.
But you have to
good
sometimes just say it out loud.
Yes, and that's very difficult. Oh boy. Because depending on your circumstance, it can feel like it's impossible. Because if you're around people, like we all tend to be, you may even behave differently. And that's strange. So it's more comfortable sometimes just to be who you've always been.
Yeah. And it requires courage.
It does.
Right? And courage of looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, I might need to give up my privilege. I might need to give up and abandon this thing so that I can
make room for something
right.
beautiful.
That's right. Wow.
It's almost always requires a sacrifice, in my experience.
Have you had to make those sacrifices in your life?
Every time I've made a move, once I was in, actually no, even pre-professional, that was necessary and positive. There's a sacrifice. There is. It could be as a professional. It could be a loss of income, of money. It could be that. It could be a loss of time spent with people. It could be. It doesn't have to be those things. But
has it ever been a loss in status? Because status is really important to this genre of music that we're in. Like, have you ever felt like I might lose my position of who Demarre McGill is?
Oh, I've never thought that.
Okay.
I mean, how can?
Okay.
That I mean,
'Cause
I control that.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, nobody controls who Demarre McGill is.
Okay.
Oh, please.
Okay.
No. That's
But you know what I'm saying.
yeah, I do know,
right?
And I know how easy it is to think that that's the case.
Especially when you're black.
Sure.
Right? Like
well,
you've climbed.
yes. You're yes.
Yeah.
Yes, especially when you're black. And you know, there are other communities in this regard that can relate and connect to this. As a black man in the classical music world, actually, as a black man in the world,
Both
and
worlds.
once again, just to clarify, other communities can definitely connect to what we're talking about here. But when you're ascending to wherever you're trying to get to, is met, and this is not just this is the world. This is not just classical music.
Yeah.
You know, at all. When you're aware of every step, I can't speak for everyone. I can speak for myself. I feel it. It's a part of me. Every step of my trajectory, I am fully aware of.
Yeah.
Then you're also fully aware of a potential fall. You are.
And the impact of that
And
fall,
the impact.
yeah.
But the thing is, then we're pivoting to talking about something else, because there is nothing I believe that I can do out professionally that is positive with good intention for myself. that will affect who Demarre McGill is. There are things that people can do malintent. Is that the right word?
Malintent.
Malintent out of negativity that should affect one's status. You understand? That's a very different thing. And ultimately with both, status within the classical music world makes no sense to me. Status as a human being, sure, but that's something, as long as it's built on a positive foundation, that's solid.
But I mean,
and if it's, I mean, so it has nothing to do with like other people may have an imaginary hammer trying to chip away, and they think they're making a difference. Please.
But you don't have haters, do you?
I would hope. I would hope.
Anybody who's hating on you.
No. I would hope I do. Oh my goodness! If everyone likes me, like, what am I doing?
I don't know anybody who doesn't.
No,
like
well, because you're maybe not in the right circles. I would hope that.
So you welcome the haters.
Yes. That means that, like,
You're on the right track.
Well, that means that they saw what I'm doing. No,
that's right.
No, really, that's fine. And I mean, really, you think that way? I mean, I don't want everyone to hate me. I mean, then I'm not doing, something's wrong.
Right.
But if I have some people looking at me, a hater could just be one full of envy. I made it.
Wow.
Yeah, that's okay.
So then you're like, let me show you a little bit more.
No, that's
what you think you hating on this.
No, actually, I wouldn't even say that. Because it has nothing to do with them.
Okay, it's all about, yeah.
It's really, this is such a personal journey. That, I mean, I'm laughing about it because it's funny.
Yeah.
I mean, there are people in my life that, like, truly matter deeply. And then there's people that I care about. There's different tiers to this.
Yeah, of course.
And so, as you know, honestly, I'm good on this journey. Honestly, I'm good in this journey alone. It's been interesting enough at this point, just trying to figure out what I'm doing by myself. And I welcome the company. And I hope that it's mostly good company.
I receive that.
Yeah.
You just got a second flute. So I've only known you to have this golden flute, this gold flute, and now you have a silver flute?
No, well, I've for years now, I've had, I'm not a flute collector. I'm typically a one flute man.
Okay.
But I have to have a backup flute. So I've had a couple of gold flutes.
Okay. But gold is the preference.
For me.
Okay.
No, it's for me.
Okay.
You know, if I would be perfectly satisfied with being in love with a silver sound, it's cheaper, you know, but it just so happens the sound that I want to hear
is golden.
Is golden.
Yeah.
And I have had a fairly recent shift in brand loyalty, so to speak. And yes, I'm in love with my Yamaha flutes. I am. It's just they don't have to ask me to be a commercial. I happen to be with Yamaha because I tried their flute and I loved it.
Wow.
Period. And yes, so I have two new flutes. One all 14 karat gold, rose gold, and the other mostly 14 karat rose gold with silver keys. It's a lighter instrument, slightly different sound. Both are gorgeous.
Wow. I want to hear these flutes.
I'm happy to play for you.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Thank you so much for playing that flute for us. That was a beautiful performance, and I really
my pleasure.
appreciate you also being on the show today. And you are welcome back here anytime.
Really appreciate it, and really appreciate you. Thanks
you.
for having me.
Man, thank you for
Wow.
all that you do for us, and thank you for what you do for this community. I just think you're amazing. I'm going to bow down to you.
Likewise.
Again. Yeah.
Likewise.
And thank you as well for watching this episode of Unmute the Voices. I'm Dr. Quinton Morris, and I hope you enjoy your day.